Rape is the most serious sexual offence. If you've been accused of rape, if you've been charged with rape, if you're under investigation for rape, don't just sit around hoping it's going to go away. You need to take legal advice, proper legal advice, as quickly as possible. I can't stress how important this is. We've dealt with so many rape allegations over the years, and we have an excellent success rate with those cases. The preparation is key. The more time we can spend defending a case, working on the defence, the better the outcome is as a general rule. And so what happens with rape? How does this come about? There's all different types of circumstances that can lead to a rape allegation. And thinking back of some of the cases, we've had cases where we have an influx of freshers week at university. People go to university for the first time, they're mixing with others, they go to parties, they get drunk, and a day or so later, a week or so later, there's an allegation of rape. Rape is in effect penetration without consent. Other areas might be husband and wife situation, boyfriend-girlfriend situation, where somebody for various reasons decides, and it might be a week later, it could be 15 years later, says that on such a date, I didn't consent, or I felt under pressure to consent, or I was asleep when this happened. And various allegations can come through at all different times. And of course, you've also got the stranger rape, although that's very rare, who somebody's just abducted on a side street somewhere and attacked. Fortunately, very rare. So most of the cases now that when rape allegations come about, the alleged defendant, the person accused, is normally known to the person that makes the allegation. That happens in almost all cases. So these allegations do come about. We have seen a massive increase in these allegations over recent years, largely, I think, because of the changing nature of the internet and the media and the assistance that's given to victims of sexual assault. They are actively encouraged to come forward. So they're given much more support nowadays than that were perhaps 10, 15, 20 years ago. So more allegations are being made. We're seeing a massive increase in these allegations. But of course, we also see a massive increase in false allegations. And bearing in mind the number of rape allegations we've dealt with, where we have won those cases, would indicate that those complaints were wrong, they were false. In fact, some of the cases I've dealt with, it's bewildering how any prosecution lawyer could even think they had a chance of success with those cases. In my view, it was a non-starter. There's nothing there. Clearly a false allegation. And yet people are now routinely being prosecuted for the most serious offence. So by taking the advice early, we can look through the evidence properly. If you've not yet been charged with an offence, it's vital that we try to work on this to try and convince the prosecution not to charge you. And there will be some information on the website relating to pre-charge engagement. That's when we work with the prosecution and the police prior to any charging decision being made, and we try and persuade them not to prosecute you because the evidence isn't good enough. If that hasn't happened, and you've now been charged with an offence, then again, it's even more important that your solicitor, if we're acting for you, that we get on top of this straight away, we get hold of the evidence, go through everything with yourself, look at what's right, what's wrong with the evidence, look at the background of the complainant, that's a very important factor, and look at your situation, look at your credibility, because ultimately with rape allegations, it largely comes down to the word of the complainant and the word of the defendant. Normally there's no independent witnesses. It's just, she says one thing, you say one thing. She says she was attacked, you say there was no attack. So it comes down to the word and the credibility of the people involved. And so from a defence position, we've got to look at your credibility, but we also have to look at the credibility of the complainant. And the prosecution will be doing the same thing. The prosecution may have been working on the complainant's case a lot longer, particularly if you've been under investigation for 18 months and you've had no solicitor working on all your pre-charge work. Because the police and the prosecution have been working on the complainant's case for several months. Nothing's been done on your case. So very important that your solicitor is proactive and gets on top of this straight away to try and redress the balance. We've got to know about the complainant. We need to know about the evidence, what's right, what's wrong, and how do we counter the allegations that are being made. It needs to be done because a rape allegation can carry up to life imprisonment. Starting point for a first offence is between 5 and 9 years in prison. It's a very, very serious offence. So if you are facing this allegation, please get in touch. We're able to go through everything with you properly. Looking at the circumstances of your case, the initial consultation is always free of charge anyway. And if we are able to assist you and you want us to take on your case, we're normally able to do that on a fixed fee. So you know exactly what the cost is going to be at the start, at the outset.